Hello and welcome to another episode of Launch Legends. Today we're joined by Rob Cornish. Rob actually has investment banking background. He left banking to pursue something that was more fulfilling and gave him more freedom to spend time with his family. So Rob has done some big launches in the last couple of years. So he goes into detail about the launches and openly shares stats. He talks a lot about how to create hype around launching your product and how to get your affiliates excited. So before we go and watch the interview, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. And if you're listening to this on a podcast, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Thank you. Hey, Rob. So how did you first get into online marketing?
Well, it all started in 2010. So prior to that, I spent 10 years in London working in the investment management field. So equity, long-only funds and also long-short hedge funds. And our team of four, we survived the initial shock of the credit crunch and Great Recession. But in 2010, we were all let go. And I'd had a great time. I absolutely loved that industry. It was a brilliant experience. We had some really good success as well. Mm-hmm. But I'd always wanted to start my own business. And as you know, when you're in a nice job that you're enjoying, it's relatively well paid, etc., it's hard to leave.
Of course,
but that was the excuse, really. That was the crossroads in 2010.
Okay.
So I looked at all sorts of different opportunities or avenues to go down, things like franchises, even opening local shops and things like that, but settled on the online model. Probably for the same reasons that you did, or people watching this, location independence, scalability, global audience, lifestyle flexibility, and so on. So I was brand new, didn't know anything about it at all. And that was the starting point. So I'm going to talk further about that, but that was really the kind of genesis of me getting online back in 2010.
You can talk further. I think what was the point where you thought, okay, online marketing is for me? Did you read anything? Did you speak to someone that got you into it?
It was a lot of different factors. If you pinned me down and said what you can only pick one thing, I think it was probably the 4-hour work week, Tim Ferriss.
Okay.
Not in itself. If I just read that on its own, it probably wouldn't have been enough. But I think that, like for many people, was a really big thing at the time, and just it opened your mind to the possibilities of something else, of kind of doing stuff virtually instead of a traditional form of business or employment. So, yeah, I'd go with that.
So how did you start? What did you start reading? What courses did you do? And how did you get to a point where you had a decent-sized list or decent-sized audience you could launch on?
Yeah, well, the first thing I did, which sounds very logical, but it was one of the, it was a massive Pandora's box, which unleashed all sorts of confusion, was just I went to Google and typed in how to make money online. Right, which is probably the worst. If you want to make money online, that's probably the worst thing to do, because you get, there's also, and it was probably even worse back then, because there's all sorts of junk, even more so than there is today. So I kind of was struggling with information overload, trying to figure out different ways and trying to figure out, what people were saying was different from what they were doing themselves and all this sort of stuff. So I spent essentially 6 months from April 2010 to kind of autumn time,
right?
Just flailing around and trying things. One of the things that was big back then was SEO.
Yeah.
So I created lots of like small sites on niche subjects, trying to rank them in the search engines. And it was just huge amounts of work for incredibly low, nothing basically. Right. Eventually, one site actually did generate me some AdSense revenue. Had a little Amazon store on there, and that was in a bizarre, it's laughable, but it was in collectible vintage metal lunchboxes. Just nuts. But everyone's got to start somewhere. I made loads of mistakes, but that from that I realized which is so obvious anyway. I should have known it before, but I realised that I needed a much bigger, more profitable market. So what I did then was transition into the stock market niche, which obviously aligned with my previous expertise in that industry, and that was rolling into 2011, and then that became my first 6 figures plus in sales online back then. So that was kind of the big milestone for me, really.
So let's talk about the launch, the first big launch you had. So could you break it down? What did you do to actually get there?
Yeah, so essentially it was an online course with a printed manual sent out in the post, snail mail, and it was a strategy that I'd used professionally in my previous career, with the hedge funds and equity investing and trading to time trades and stuff. So I packaged that up and introduced tools that were readily available to the home investor rather than, a Bloomberg terminal, for example, which it costs thousands, which isn't accessible to everyone. So put that together, and then we marketed that online. I did I did what's now called a VSL. I'm not sure whether the term was around back then. A video sales letter, a series of those. So building up some training, free content, and then answering questions and introducing what the course is about and so on. And in terms of the marketing, that was done through marketing partners, so joint ventures essentially on a commission split.
So did you have at that point, Rob? Sorry, did you have a list? At that point? Did you have a big list? Okay,
no, nothing at all. So zero. I say zero. What I had done is started because I was in all these different niche markets and all sorts of crazy stuff, and then went into the stock market niche at the same time. Around kind of probably December 2010, I'd created my site, which is still my main site, gainhigherground.com. And that was started. You can still see the posts back there if you go back far enough. But it was just an online journal, really, for what I was learning, hold myself accountable. And I put a little opt-in box in there. So I don't know, but maybe I had a few subscribers. At the time of that launch, probably had 20 odd subscribers. But because that blog was on marketing, as opposed to the stock market, I didn't cross the two. So there was no promotion at all to any list that I had myself. So it was all done through marketing partners.
Okay. So when you say marketing partners, a lot of people struggle with getting people on board, JV partners, to promote them. How was that experience for you?
Well, at that point, I didn't have any insights into doing that really at all. So really, I just had a product, and I knew somebody, a friend of a friend, who had a newsletter and talked and promoted some products in the financial sort of investing trading space. So really just approached them through this friend and said, is this something that I could do or your audience might be interested in? And they said yes. Now, looking back, I got screwed on the commission. There was various other things which were not optimal, let's say, but that's fine because again, I think when you're starting out, you just got to get in the game and get some experience, and you can read 100 books. So there's nothing there's various aspects of that I wouldn't do again. I wouldn't agree to those commission rates, for example, but I haven't got a problem. I don't regret that because it just got me the experience and got me going. So, that was the initial thing. So it was just, and I still think that for someone starting out today, if you're looking for a marketing partner, you don't need to do a big pitch at them. Just go, look, this is what I've got. Do you think this might be of interest to your audience? And get the conversation going, and just find out. And if they say no, you can still if they give you feedback, you can use that, incorporate it, maybe adjust your positioning, go to someone else, and eventually, provided you've got a great product and a good offer, then it will happen for you. I should just add, what happened was that, and this is another strategy which can be really useful, is I started off with this one marketing partner who had the list. After we did the initial launch to their list, they then were able to refer me onto other people that they knew, who also promoted this same product. And of course, at that point, then you've actually got some stats, you've got some sales numbers, EPs, earnings per click, or whatever people are looking for in whatever market you're in. And then that obviously, that's when the snowball starts to creak forward and gain some momentum. So it is true. It's the hardest thing to begin with. But once you've got some momentum, then it does become easier.
So how did you structure the offer? Could you talk me through how you did the pre-launch and what the offer was about?
Yeah, basically it was a kind of sort of a simplified version of what you would get in a bigger product launch. So the idea really is to create an event. Events are, just psychologically, as humans, people are attracted to an event. So if you can trail that before, classic examples, if you look at how Apple launch products, for example, they trail it, bits get leaked out, there's excitement, there's rumors, they do a launch, they're holding it back. They don't just put up a blog post, right, and say, oh, this is our new product. So that sequencing, if you get that, you can just take elements of it and construct your own launch. So in this particular case, and other launches I've done have been very similar. You start off with, let's say, I can't remember exactly the emails and everything now because it's such a long time ago. But for example, on a Friday, you could send out an email saying, I've got big news coming on Monday. Please watch your inbox at midday on Monday. I'm going to make a big announcement. Then on Monday, you say, I've put together this, for the past 6 months or whatever, I've been working on this new project. I've been dying to tell you about it. It's finally ready. So from tomorrow, we're going to start this training. I'm going to tell you all about it. Please, again, watch your inbox. So it's a bit like a movie trailer, where you see the bus going up Kensington High Street or whatever city you live in, and it's got, coming soon on April the 23rd, whatever. It's the same thing, right? And that's done in all sorts of industries because it works. And you can do it via email,
right,
or whatever medium you're using. So what you've got then is some training, is some content. So what you want to be doing is people want to buy. They don't like to be sold to, really. So try to add value, talk them through the system. Try and give them, what I try and do is give them enough information and step-by-step training that they could do it on their own without whatever you're selling. Now that sounds crazy, but what it does is help them, which is, I'm a big believer in just giving value, because that value does come back. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but sometime it comes back in spades. But secondly, it can really they end up with a mindset of, wow, if this is the free stuff, right? I've just learned so much. This is so much more than other people give. God, well, if this is the free stuff, imagine what the product's going to be like.
Right.
Unbelievable. So then, again, you don't spring the launch on them or the sales pitch on them. Just say, so if you've got a video on Tuesday or Wednesday, say, okay, so here, this is pure content. We're just going to go through the system. I'm really excited about this. Let me walk you through it. And then in a few days' time, I'm going to send you another video. We're going to pick up on some questions and answers that we've got in about this video. And I'm also going to tell you about the brand new course that I'm going to be, or product or software app that we're going to be releasing soon. But whether or not that's right for you, we'll see later on. But right now, we're just talking about content. So again, you're front running. You're telling people what's coming on, what's going to happen tomorrow, the next day. You're also, so that's part of the event. You're also talking about you're introducing social proof, because you're talking about, we're going to answer some of the questions. We had loads of questions come in. I know people really want to ask this.
Yeah.
So you can go through Q&A. So a great thing to do, we didn't do it in this first launch, but I've done it subsequently, is do a Q&A video.
Okay.
And that's good because, again, you're alluding to the event. People think, oh, wow, everyone's on this. People are asking questions and so on. But all a Q&A really is probably the best strategy in marketing to overcome people's objections, i.e. reasons why they won't buy your product.
Got it.
So what is it? Why would people land on your sales page and not buy? There's so much focus on buyers and benefits and get them in and everything. But what about all the people that most people who land on your page will not buy?
Well, yeah.
Right? So why is that? And what can we do with those people? They've all got reservations. Maybe they don't believe the product. They don't believe you. They don't know you. Yeah. Perhaps they think, it'll just be the same as this other thing I've seen. So they don't think it's different. Yeah. Or maybe they believe you in the product. They think it's great, but, and this is a big one, they don't believe it'll work for them because they've got insecurity. Maybe they failed in the past. They think, I can see it work for Hamid. It's going to work for all these other people. I believe that. I know it's going to work, but it won't work for me. That's a massive hurdle. Okay. So by spending some time, possibly in a Q&A video, or even on a written sales page or in an email, and addressing those Q&A, that's a big conversion booster, just as much as focusing on the people who are predisposed to buy anyway. So that's part of it as well, the Q&A. And then you finally do the launch. So you go through, say, right, tomorrow we're opening the doors again, midday or whatever time. Yeah. And that's where you go into a full on sales pitch, and the sales pitch itself is structured. I can walk you through that as well if you like.
So before that, how many times do you reach out to them? How many emails or how many times do you send out educational content before the launch? And what's the gap between each piece of content?
Yeah, great question. Well, I think for me, it's changed a bit. I think back in 2010, for example, around that time, you could do launches which were, say, 10 days or even longer sometimes. I'm sure I used to see things which were almost 2 weeks. Okay. But people's attention span has got a lot shorter. There wasn't really any social media or anything even back then. Okay. There are so many distractions now. It's a good idea to compress it. So what I do pretty much now is do 5, maybe 6 day maximum launches. Okay. That's pretty much it. Now that's just me. You'll probably meet somebody else who says 2 weeks works better. It depends, obviously. But even, I've done offers which maybe, I don't know whether you'd even call them launches, but more like special offers, which can last 48 hours. Okay. So a much more condensed thing. The key thing is that you never want to get repetitive or feel like the momentum's lagging. So every email you send, you want to have a key reason why you're sending it. Okay. So here's what's going to happen tomorrow. We've just had loads of questions in, so I wanted to let you know about these questions. Okay. Another email. We've just announced the deadline when this is going to shut. Okay. So this is the reason I'm sending this email. So always have a reason why you're getting in touch, and then it's always fresh, and you're training people that whenever they open an email from you, they're going to learn something important. Okay. If you're just doing reminders, in case you missed this email, here's the thing, that's fine. And you can do that, say, once or twice, particularly on the last day. Send 2 or 3 emails, maybe I do on the last day, and just go, clock's ticking down and we've only got a few hours to go. Here's another way of looking at it. If you're not going to do this, what are you going to do? And that kind of thing. But those are the exceptions. The general rule is you just always want to have something to talk about. Okay. So provided you keep to that rule, I think you could pick whatever space you like. But obviously the longer you go, if you go 2 weeks, that's pretty difficult to come up with something brand new every email. Okay. So I think condensing it down is generally better.
Got it. Let's talk about the numbers. So your first big launch, the one you did with your partner. Let's talk about the revenue and any recurring revenue.
Yeah, well, that first one, I'd have to look the actual numbers up. It was just over, I think, a couple of $100,000. Okay. That's gross revenue. So remember, like we mentioned earlier on commissions, that's one expense because you've got to pay the marketing partners. Right. You've also got, in this case, I've never done this. I have done physical DVDs and stuff, but I don't even do that anymore because nobody has a DVD player. Yeah. But back then we did printed booklets as well. So that's another. Then you've got taxes, you've got all sorts of stuff. So as you know, there's a massive difference. Well, depending on what you do between, gross revenue and profit. So, but that's the kind of ballpark, right? For those numbers. The structure, though, of that launch made lots of mistakes, and it was pretty rough around the edges. I'd never done anything like it before. Yeah. That broad structure really, though, is the same for whether you sell 10 copies or you really leverage it up and you get many, many more marketing partners on. I mean, that's one of the things I should have done probably that I didn't, is push harder to spread it out and get more and more marketing partners on. I'm sure I could have done a lot better. You can always look back with hindsight.
So how do you think now, let's talk about your your biggest launch and what worked there. And looking back, what would you have applied on the first launch?
Yeah. Well, let's see. I think some of the things that have changed, or one of the things. So for example, you take. I did a little piece of software. Now this is a budget product, so the revenue is much lower. Okay. It's $12.95. I still sells now actually, but much more on an evergreen basis rather than a launch or anything. And it's just all it is a browser extension. Okay. All right, and I sold that I think for $12.95, so very cheap, one-off cost. Okay, right? What's the name of the product? And it's called Spybar. You can find it online. All right, so basically, just where I got the idea, and there's another lesson here, I suppose, is that I went to a website. Yeah, I think it was called what WordPress theme is that.com or something. So you see a nice design of a website. Yeah. Many sites are built on WordPress. You think, what theme are they using? I wouldn't mind having a look at that. So you can go to this website, what WordPress theme is that, and put in your domain name, click go, and it will tell you like the theme and the plugins that are installed and stuff like that. It's quite interesting. So I did that once. I thought, that's quite good. Wouldn't it be cool if you could just click a button though on the site? Okay. So I sketched it out on a piece of paper. Here's the button, really rough, like whatever. Yes. Put it on, it would have been then Elance or Odesk, now Upwork. Okay. And it was $300, right, for a prototype. So very, very rough, but it worked. I thought, that's quite good. And really almost it was for myself. And this is a lesson in even if there's something free out there, all right, and it's totally free, you do not need Spybar or my browser extension to do this. You can do it for free. You can right-click, look at the source code, or you can go to that website, which is totally free, probably still online. And but all I did was do one thing, which reduced a little bit of time and hassle for people. Okay. Literally one click. So it's hard. It saved them like 3 or 4 clicks and a bit of typing. Nothing more than that. And obviously this is very small. It's a budget product. This is not a big SaaS operation at all. But I think some of the lessons you could probably use. So I thought, do you know what? I'll put this out. Why not? So I wrote a sales page, did a little demo video. You can see it if you look on the site of Spybar. It's a tiny little thing, and put that out. And I used a similar launch process to the one we talked about. Okay. To go out and market this. Now I added a couple of upsells, which were information products, because obviously the price is so low that affiliates, and JV partners wouldn't really promote. And I offered 100%, I think, or 75% of the selling price.
Okay.
Added some upsells, more expensive, so they could make a reasonable, $100 or something like that. So, but people thought it was a cool tool to use. I thought, oh yeah, I'll send out on this. So and that shifted, I think, during the launch period. Again, I can't remember, but probably like 6 days, something like that. That shifted about 3,000 units.
Wow. Okay.
And then from that, then I went on and I got that up to sort of over 5,000 and so on. So it's a tiny little thing. The money-wise, obviously, hardly any money in it for me. But what it did do, of course, is bring a lot of buyers into my list.
Yeah.
And they went on then to some of them will go on to join my continuity programs, where it's membership sites that price every month, or my coaching, or sometimes even consulting, which I do a lot of at the moment, and so on. So the idea is very much that example is not it's a bit different to the stock market product, which was a few £100 or dollars. This one, there's no real money on the front end, but the money comes later on the back end. The other lesson. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Rob. How much money do you reckon you've made over time from those 5,000 customers? I know you wouldn't know the right answer, but what way answer? Yeah,
I honestly can't say. I can certainly tell you that several of them have gone on to buy, say, $5,000 mentoring or coaching or consulting packages from me.
Okay.
But and other people have joined $37 a month continuity. They've joined. At the moment, I do a $200 a month program as well.
Okay.
Some of those will have come from that original product or other similar products that I put out like that. So the idea is it's not a loss leader, because you're not losing money. You're actually making money, but just some pocket change, if you like. But for the greater good later on. So it's almost like launching a book, right? So a lot of authors or coaches or speakers would put out a book. They're not going to make any money out of the book, right? They might even lose money on the book, but then they've got people onto their list in their audience. They can engage with them, and then you instead of taking a myopic view, you're looking longer term for your business.
So Rob, for this particular launch, did you use your own list as well, or you just used JV's again?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I used. So by that time, going back to my main website that we talked about, where I set that up in 2010, that started off as an initial tiny little blog. But obviously, and I was just doing some content marketing. So I did some guest posts back then, and I did some interviews like this with other people. So people click through and join my list. I wrote some articles for premium newsletters that were going out to big audiences through the post and that kind of thing. So I'd gain a small audience, but the thing with content marketing, in my experience anyway, is that it doesn't necessarily generate huge volumes of traffic like a JV partner sending to their list or when you buy paid traffic. But the traffic content marketing does generate tends to be really high quality because they've engaged first. Okay. They've taken the trouble to even scroll down, which not everyone does. Then they've clicked a link. Then they've checked you out on your site. Then they've decided they like all of that and they want to join your list. Okay. So that's much, much higher than if somebody's seen an ad, they click through, they see your opt-in page, they think, oh, that's quite good. I'd really like that free report, but I don't really want to give them my email address. Right, I'll put in joke@gmail.com or something. Yeah. Extreme example, but you see the difference. Okay. So I built a small list there. So at that stage, and I'd done launches before that and after that as well. So some of those sales, like you say, the 3,000 whatever it was sales initially, then that was I'd say even probably like 15% probably from my list, but the vast majority would be from JV partners, affiliates.
So couple of questions.
So it really is driven by, that was the purpose of it, is to bring in new leads.
Got it. So how big was your list at that point? I know it was a small list. But
I honestly can't remember. I can't remember. I would, but probably something like 6,000, something like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How was your experience hiring JVs? Getting JVs on board at that time. How many JVs did you get, and how did you reach out, and were they really receptive?
Well, again, for that, in terms of the numbers, you're probably looking for that as probably about, let's say, 40 JV partners. I'm calling them JV partners. I would call them more affiliates. So the distinction in my mind, the way I look at it, is that a JV partner is someone you work with. You talk on Zoom, or them, you work with them in much more detail. Whereas an affiliate, which is what this was really someone who just arrives at your affiliate page, thinks, oh, this is a cool product, I'll promote it. They sign up, and their name and their email and stuff, but you might never speak to them. It's just a much more of a transactional relationship rather than a deeper relationship. So I would class all of those people in that launch much more as affiliates in the way I look at things. But yeah, so say there's 40, and again, plus or minus 10 or whatever. But again, you've got that it's very top heavy, and this is the same with any launch. So you'll get, it's the Pareto principle. You'll get 80% of your sales from 20% of your affiliates. In fact, years ago, I wrote a blog post saying it's not 80-20, it's probably 90-10 or 95-5. I don't know your experience, Hamid, but it's amazing how virtually everything, any distribution you look in your business, whether it's customer support or anything, affiliates, it is weighted in a small amount.
Right.
It's the same with your audience, right? You have what everyone says, how big's your list, or what's the size of this? But the real question is how many clicks can you send to an offer? Because you can have thousands of people which are dead weight, and within that audience, if you've got, say, 1,000 people or 10,000 or 100,000, there's some people moderately interested, but then as you get down, then you've got the 1% who are super fans. And I forget, there's something in marketing, I forget who said it, but they said all you need is 1,000 super fans and you're multi-millionaire, or something like that. I can't quite remember who said something to that effect, but I think that's absolutely true. So understanding those distributions are really important.
Okay.
But one thing I am mindful of, stop me if I'm going off a tangent. With the affiliates, I'm very mindful. This is another thing that I learned going through launches, I had no clue about initially, is that there's, broadly speaking, there's the long tail of smaller affiliates. So people, a product like that for a browser extension or a SaaS app or something, they might like it, use it themselves, they want to promote it, they've got a small blog, virtually small traffic, or they've got a tiny list, and they just want to make a recommendation. Right, whether it's something like Schedule Wants or a graphics app or whatever, and they'll probably refer some clients, and they don't refer many, but there's a lot of those people. Then you've got the big fish at the other end, so it's very easy to reward the big fish, and that's logical. But it's also good to keep in mind the smaller, the many more smaller affiliates that have potential. So one of the things that I started introducing was financial incentives for promotion. So as well as the commission, also do prize funds. So during the launch period, you can set up a prize fund. So whoever gets the most sales gets whatever, and so on. Many of those are very, very top heavy as well. So most of the money, 90% of the money goes to the top three. The problem then is the small affiliates, they know I've got no chance of beating the big fish, right? I've got no chance. What's the incentive to promote? So some of the things that I've tried to do is very subtle, but just tried to make the distribution of, in that example, prize money a little bit more linear rather than totally top heavy, and give an incentive for people to move up the leaderboard. So, for example, have a meaningful marginal increase from position 10 to 9. rather than just rubbish money, and then it all comes at the top. So these are very simple things, but I've found them to be quite effective. The other thing, in terms of lessons learned, is get affiliates, which I wasn't doing at the beginning at all, is communication. So everyone's focusing on, like we talked earlier, communication. You asked, how do you position the launch? What emails do you send, etc.? And that's great. That's with the customers. But equal attention should be given to communication with your marketing partners.
Yeah.
So yes, incentivize them through finance, but if you can update them, it's amazing. I'm amazed that I promote a few tools that I use myself. It's not my main business, affiliate marketing, but I just put a few things up. But I'm constantly amazed at how they'll send, quite big companies, they'll send you an email and go, oh, we've got a new release come out, and it's just a one-off email. They don't trail it. They don't check in and say, oh, how are you doing? Is there anything we can help with? Occasionally you get that, but there's a deficit there. So I think by looking after your marketing partners and affiliates, keeping them on board and keeping them engaged, you're creating a marketing army.
Okay.
And when you want to do something else, like launch a new product or a new premium tier on your service or whatever it is, they'll feel respected. They like the company they're working with. They'll be more ready to spring into action when you need them.
Great. So, Rob, what platform do you use? JVZoo or ClickBank or anything like that?
Well, I've used a variety of different things. So let's go through very quickly. So right at the beginning, we used merchant accounts because there was no Stripe. You had PayPal, but it was very relatively early days. So in the stock market example we looked at, that was all merchant accounts there. Then there was PayPal. I've had continuity programs in ClickBank, which is it's sort of love and hate relationship. I mean, it went through a very, very poor stage where I just didn't want to be associated with it because of some of the kind of products that were on there. I think they cleaned up their act under some pressure from the FTC. It still isn't great. There's fees, but it has some advantages. It's a bit unique in that they sell the products instead of, and then pay you. So for people concerned about EU VAT rules and things like that, it's an option to consider. It's certainly very solid. So a little bit of over years, some continuity through ClickBank membership site. Then, like you say, JVZoo, I've used that. Or there's one called Warrior Plus.
Yeah.
These are very specific to online marketing and internet marketing, though. I don't use those so much anymore, though. So nowadays I use something called Thrivecart, which is kind of a specialist shopping cart. So rather than a shopping cart built into a big platform with the company trying to do everything, they just specialise in shopping cart, and you can do an awful lot with that. I really like it. So Thrivecart, in terms of shopping cart, is what I use now, and that integrates well with like the reporting side. So I can download that. I can give it to my bookkeeper. She can update Xero that I use for the bookkeeping. That goes off to the accountant. So it's not perfect, but it's kind of that's what my current setup is.
Great, Rob. That's brilliant. So one last question. So you know pretty much a lot about launches. You've been in it for 10 years, pretty much. Who's taught you the most about launches and who's been your mentor?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer because it's a bit like the question, who got into it. I picked Tim Ferriss, didn't I, with the book. I think this is a bit of a get out answer, but it's the honest one that I can give you, is that the biggest mentor has been studying and watching other launches.
Okay.
So rather than one particular person, is just going behind the scenes, and they call it this phrase funnel hacking, if you like. Yeah. But I was doing that way before that term came out. It's probably not the best description, but just looking at what you see, not as a customer, like, should I buy this, but actually, what are they doing here? Even what subject line have they used in this email? Okay, we've opened the email. What are they doing here? What buttons are they pressing? Really understanding that, because at the end of the day, whether it's a launch or you're doing consultation calls to go into coaching or consulting, or you're selling a membership site, which can be a completely different model, we could talk about that for a long time, then all of what underlies all of that is psychology. So understand, just watching and observing and really trying to reverse engineer the psychology behind these launches, whether it's creating an event in a launch or adding more a product stack, bonus stack to encourage people to get into continuity, or whatever it is. That is the biggest mentor you can get.
Great. Rob, that was really good. A lot of value you provided. Well, thank you very much. And thank you for the interview. And I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Great speaking with you, Hamid.